Hey, welcome. We've all heard it a million times, right? Lift with your legs, not your back. It's like the oldest rule in the book. But if it's really that simple, why are companies and workers still dealing with so many manual handling injuries? Today we're going to unpack why that old advice is, well, dangerously incomplete. And we'll explore a modern science-backed approach that's all about fixing the work itself.
Let's just start with a number, $13.1 billion. That's the estimated direct cost of overexertion injuries every single year in the United States alone. So we're not talking about a few sore backs here. This is a massive economic and human problem, and it hits pretty much every industry you can think of. Which brings us to the big question, doesn't it? If everybody knows the solution, why are the costs still sky high and the injuries so common? Well, the answer, as we're about to find out, is that we've been asking the wrong question and focusing on completely the wrong solution.
So here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start by redefining what lifting even means. Then we'll get into the science of spinal strain, learn how to spot hazards you might not even notice, check out some rules from the real world, and finally we'll land on the big idea. Fix the task, not the worker.
Okay, first things first, we need a bit of a language update. You know, modern safety thinking has moved past the simple term manual handling. Why? Because the risks are just so much broader than just lifting something off the floor. The new and much more accurate term is hazardous manual tasks.
So what does that actually mean? Well, a hazardous manual task is basically any activity that puts these kinds of stress on the body. And notice, it's not just lifting. It could be pushing a heavy cart, holding a tool that vibrates, or even just staying in an awkward position for too long. It's really about the total strain on your body, not just how much something weighs. Okay, let's dive into this, because this is where it gets really interesting. How can a pretty light object cause a serious, debilitating back injury? The answer isn't in the weight itself. It's in some simple, but kind of brutal, physics. It all comes down to the principle of a lever.
This is the key. This formula is everything. The stress on your spine, let's call it the moment, or M, equals the weight of the object, W, multiplied by the distance it's held from your spine, D. And that word multiplied is what really matters here.
And this shows you exactly where that force gets focused, right on that L5-S1 disc deep in your lower back. Because of that multiplication in the formula, as the distance D gets bigger, the compressive force on that disc doesn't just add up, it multiplies like crazy. That's why holding a 10-kilo box with your arms stretched all the way out can put hundreds of kilos of force right on your spine.
So now we get the why behind the injury. Let's look at the what. What are the specific things that turn a normal task into a hazardous one? Well, experts have identified 5 main risk factors that go way beyond just how much something weighs.
Now, what's really interesting here is just how low these thresholds are. A repetitive motion, that's anything you do more than twice a minute. A sustained posture becomes a hazard after only 30 seconds. I mean, these aren't extreme situations, they're part of so many jobs. And that damage just builds up over time through thousands and thousands of tiny little micro-traumas.
So how do you actually spot these risks in the wild? The Teal-Leo framework is a fantastic tool. It just gets you to look at the task, the individual, the load, the environment, and any other factors. Think of it like a simple checklist to help make those invisible risks visible.
Okay, theory is great, but what does this look like on the ground? Let's move to and see how this all gets put into practice in a really high-risk industry. We're going to look at procedures from Perth scaffolding, where handling heavy, awkward steel tubes is just an average Tuesday.
This quote from their official procedure pretty much says it all. This is not a suggestion. It's not a friendly reminder. It is a hard and fast rule. The company provides the right tools, and if you refuse to use them, that's a safety breach with actual consequences. This is that huge shift from just awareness to genuine accountability.
And they get super specific. Their rules flat out prohibit the actions that create those hazards we just talked about. No lifting beyond your capacity, no dangerous shortcuts like throwing stuff, no twisting your spine while carrying a load, and absolutely no ignoring the equipment that's there to make the job safer. These are not guidelines, they're clear, non-negotiable lines in the sand.
So the crucial point is this. We've seen the science, we've seen a real-world example, and it all leads to this: the single most effective philosophy in all of modern safety. It's called the hierarchy of controls, and this is the playbook for actually solving the problem.
The hierarchy is like a waterfall. You have to start at the top. The best, most effective thing you can do is to eliminate the hazardous task completely. If you can't do that, you go to level 2. Use engineering and design to physically change the work. Install a hoist, get a pallet jack, redesign the whole workstation. And only Only as a last resort do you rely on administrative controls like training. Training is the bottom of the pyramid, it's the weakest control, not the first solution.
And this slide just makes the difference crystal clear. A training-based approach relies on every single worker remembering and perfectly executing a technique every single time. That's just not realistic. An engineering approach, on the other hand, removes the hazard itself. It makes the work inherently safer no matter what. And the data is clear. Design changes are way more effective and lead to huge reductions in pain and injury.
And if you needed any more convincing, this quote from a massive review of the research is basically the final word on it. You can train someone all day long on how to lift safely, but if their job forces them to repeatedly twist and lift heavy stuff from the floor in a tiny space, the training is useless. The design of the task itself makes injury almost inevitable.
And the long-term stakes? They are incredibly high. This number, 2 times, represents the doubled risk of developing hip osteoarthritis for workers who frequently have to handle loads over 20 kilograms. That's about 44 pounds. This isn't just about a temporary sprain, we're talking about a lifetime of chronic pain and disability, all caused by poorly designed work.
So, we'll end with a question for you to take away and think about. Is your safety program asking workers to be stronger, or is it making the work smarter? Is the focus on asking people to be superhuman, to always lift perfectly, to just endure the strain? Or is it focused on engineering the work itself to be smarter, easier, and just inherently safer for everyone? The answer to that question is the difference between a program that just ticks a box and one that actually protects people. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.